Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending this VACRAO session called Finding a Fabulous Fit, How to Choose the Perfect College. We wanted to introduce ourselves first as your moderators and panelists today. So my name is Stacey Thomas. I am with Johnson and Wales University.
I'm Mandy Weaver, and I represent West Virginia University.
And I'm Amanda Wolk, and I represent the University of Tennessee.
I'm Elizabeth Dugas, and I represent the University of Alabama.
So welcome, welcome. So the first thing we want to just kind of introduce you to is something where we have tried to help you think of factors to consider as you look at over 4,000 colleges and universities in the United States. So we've put them into 4 categories for you. We want you to think about size, location, academics, and money. And so the acronym for that is SLAM. So the first category we're going to talk about is size. And something I just want you guys to think about and consider is that every college has something great to offer. And there is going to be a college, and probably multiple colleges, where you'll be happy and you'll thrive. But truly what's best for you in this process really depends on what your goals are, and maybe even some of your personality traits and how you learn well and what you want to do in your free time outside of your academics. So if you are a person who pictures yourself at a big football game or a televised sporting event, that's probably going to be a large university. Maybe you want a school that has a wide variety of majors and courses, maybe because you're undecided at this point. You're not exactly sure what you want to do, but you want to have a lot of options. Again, that might be a larger university. Do you want research opportunities on campus and hundreds of clubs and organizations to have the option to join? That larger university might be a good fit for you. So in defining a larger university, we say anywhere from 15 to over 50,000 students. And very often schools of that size, generally speaking, will be public universities. On the flip side of that, conversely, maybe you want small class sizes from the time you get to the university to the time you graduate, with hands-on learning opportunities. Or maybe, again, you're undecided, but you really want to design your own major. Or you want that close-knit community where professors know your name and you aren't going to get lost in the shuffle. So generally speaking, those would be smaller schools. Generally speaking, certainly with exceptions, those are private institutions. And we define that in terms of size anywhere from about 1,000 students to 5,000 students, okay? And then maybe you want a little bit of both. Maybe you think all of that sounds great. There are plenty of medium-sized universities, which would be that 5,000 to 15,000 student body, that would give you kind of the best of both worlds. Okay, so size is just one of 4 things we want you to consider when you're picking the best college.
Mandy, you're muted.
Thank you. I do that all the time. Sorry about that, guys. I was just saying thank you, Stacey, for all that information. And our next acronym, or next letter in our SLAM acronym, rather, is location. And location is very important. Wherever you end up going to school for higher education, you want to make sure that you're in an area that works for you, is what you're comfortable with. So some things for you to consider when talking about location, and these aren't in any particular order. It's just kind of how I thought of it when I was putting together the slide. But first, do you want to be close to home? Is that something that's important to you, like really close to home? Or would you rather be within driving distance? Maybe you want to be a couple of hours away, or 3 or 4 hours away, you know, to make a day trip out of it if you need to get back home? Or do you want to be far away and maybe you're only intending on coming home on holiday breaks or select weekends that you've set aside? So definitely think about, you know, the proximity to back to your home and if that is important to you. Is there a particular part of your region where you live, or just a particular part of the country that you've always thought about seeing or thought about maybe attending school at? Is that something that's attractive to you? Or maybe you've never thought about that before, and maybe that's something you should add to your list as you're researching schools. And then think about the type of community that the institution is in. So do you want to be in a more urban area or like, you know, like a city? Is suburban more your style? Maybe you'd like to be in a more rural area that's, you know, a little bit more laid back perhaps, or a college town setting, which could be a little bit of both. So definitely think about the community, where your institution is, and how the permanent residents there as well, and the type of area that it is in. How often do you plan on coming home? So that kind of goes along with, you know, how far away do you want to be? So if you think that you may come home pretty often, if you're going to come home several weekends throughout the semester, then chances are you may want to choose something that's a little bit closer to you, or at least within driving distance. So definitely think about that. That may be something that you don't know quite yet, or haven't maybe thought about before, but definitely something to take into consideration and be realistic. You know, just from personal experience, I remember thinking, I'm never going home on the weekends. You know, why would I do that? But I actually ended up going home a lot on the weekends, more than I thought that I ever would. So definitely keep that in mind and be realistic in your thinking about that. And then in the same, you know, area as that, is it going to be easy or reasonable for you to travel back and forth from school to home? Is that something that is important to you? You know, are you going to have a vehicle with you? Are cars even allowed at the institution where you would be going? Or is there other transportation that could be available to you? You know, like the next bullet down, how close is the transportation for you to get home? Would you need to take an airplane? And how do you get to the airport? Or, you know, is a bus maybe something that you could do? So just think about all of those, and they're just valid reasons, things that you may not necessarily think about in the big scheme of things when you're making notes and lists about different institutions that you've started thinking about. Add all of these to your criteria and see what you're comfortable with. And then finally, what's the climate and the weather like in that town or you know, city that you're going to be in? Do you want to be in a nice sunny area that maybe it doesn't rain a lot there, or it stays warm, pretty warm throughout the year? Or are you more of a mountain person or just cooler weather person? Doesn't even have to be mountains, but maybe you want to be up north somewhere and in cooler climate. Think about what you like as far as that goes too. And then are there things for you to do off campus? You know, as Stacey was saying in the first slide, you know, some institutions are going to have lots and lots of student clubs and organizations on campus, but what can you do off campus as well? What is in the community or in the general area of the city or town that the institution is located in that you can take advantage of? Because you may not always want to be doing something, you know, right on campus or affiliated with the campus. So definitely, you know, think about these. Again, my best advice is to just really ask yourself these questions, you know, be honest with yourself and see what you like. And this, again, may become more apparent to you as you start doing some visits. Even right now, even if they're only virtual visits, you can still kind of think about these different aspects and make the most of that exploration. So thank you. I will now turn it over to, I think, is it Amanda? Yeah.
Hey guys, just want to bring it to your attention. If you do have any questions throughout our presentation, feel free to put them in the question and answer section down at the bottom, and we'll be happy to get those towards the end. So definitely let us know if you have questions. We want to make sure you don't leave today without getting all of your questions answered. So the part of the acronym that I'm going to talk about is going to be academics. I think the first thing that comes to mind when people are looking at colleges and considering the academic options is the available programs of study. Some schools have just a couple of majors, some schools specialize in certain things, and other schools have a ton of different majors. One of my best advice here is that you don't rule out a school because they don't specifically have the major that you're looking for. Of course, if you're looking to do engineering or architecture or something very specific and the school doesn't offer anything along those lines, that may be a consideration, but don't rule out schools that maybe don't have the specific major that you're looking for. Sometimes there are other majors that can help you get to your goals. For example, I have a lot of times students ask me about, they want to major in athletic training. Well, there are a lot of other majors that can get you to be an athletic trainer. You can do kinesiology. There are a ton of different programs that you can pick from. So make sure that you're doing your research and know the different pathways that you can take to get to the major or the degree that you're thinking about. So if you want to go to med school, for example, a lot of students feel like they have to major in pre-med. You don't necessarily have to major in pre-med. You can literally major in anything as long as you're getting the prerequisites that you need for medical school. You may want to also ask about pathway programs. Some schools are going to have programs that are going to prepare you and give you a pathway into medical school. So just look at all the different options. Definitely look at schools that have majors you're interested in, but don't rule out schools that maybe don't have the specific major you think you might be looking for. Also, consider if a school admits you directly to your major. So some schools are going to just start you in a general curriculum for a year or two. Some schools are going to put you directly into your major. So if you really don't know what you want to do, make sure you're looking at the different kind of support services that are available for students that are undeclared. Is there special advising for you? Do you have a career center or something that can help you? But look and consider, how do you like to learn? What is the best way for you to enter a college? Also consider the class sizes. Do you want to go to a larger school or a smaller school? Make sure you're looking at the student faculty to ratio. So this kind of ties into the size component of our acronym, but also kind of to the academics portion as well. Also look at the different experiential opportunities that are available. When I talk about experiential opportunities, I'm talking about things like internships, co-ops, research, service learning, study abroad. Do you learn best doing things outside of the classroom? Do you think you would learn best and get the best from your experience if there are great internship opportunities or co-op opportunities? Internships are typically unpaid. Co-ops are usually going to provide you with some sort of pay and are common in areas like engineering. Sometimes this can be very helpful in getting a job when you graduate. So if this is something that's important to you, definitely look at the career services that are offered both at the university and in the individual colleges and majors. Some schools are going to offer research opportunities. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you ask your admissions counselor about what kind of research opportunities are available to students. And of course, right now, students aren't really studying abroad, but hopefully that's something that will come back. And that's an important part of a lot of people's college experience. So find out if they have study abroad, what kind of places students go to. Can you study abroad in your major? So there are lots of different considerations when you think about what's going on outside of the classroom, in addition to what you're studying. Also, ask about the academic support services that are offered. Do schools have different tutoring? Will they help you if you have learning differences? Do they have programs like supplemental instruction or academic coaching? Find out what's available for you when you get to campus so that you know that you can be successful and have all the tools that you need to succeed. As I kind of touched on before, ask about career services and outcomes. How do graduates do when they finish with school? Are they in graduate school? Are they employed? Ask about alumni networks. A lot of times schools with strong alum networks will help you to get jobs because they're always looking to hire alums from their institutions. And last, something that's really important is make sure you're assessing your chance at being admitted. I think something you guys might hear a lot is you should have reach schools, target schools, likely schools. And so I think you need to look at the admissions requirements. Don't apply to all schools where you are either way above or way below what the schools are looking for admission. I know that this year maybe things are a little bit different because some schools are changing the way they review applications. Schools are going test optional, so you kind of have one less metric to look at if you've not been able to take a SAT or ACT. But reach out to your college counselors, reach out to your admissions counselors, but just make sure that creating a balanced list that's going to give you the best chance of finding somewhere where you're going to fit at the end of your senior year. And now we will move on to Elizabeth.
Hi, so I unfortunately get to be a little bit of the Debbie Downer and bring in the realistic side of the college search process. So it's wonderful to plan what your ideals are, what your ideal environment would be, your ideal school, your ideal location, your ideal experiences, and ideal academic opportunities. But unfortunately, we have to do that within the lens of what is realistic. And obviously, money can definitely have an impact on what is a realistic option for you. So the first thing I want to point out is you need to have an honest financial conversation with your family, with your guardians or parents early in the process, or if you're the parents with your student early in the process. Because you don't want your student to completely fall in love with one of the most expensive schools that they are not likely to get much aid from, and then you get admitted to that school and plan to go to that school, and then unfortunately you have to say, oh, actually we can't afford that school. So if there is a limit in the amount of money that you will be able to provide or spend, or if you will need some additional compensation, if the student will have to contribute to the cost, then you need to know that early on so that you can keep that in mind when you're looking at the various colleges. However, don't just focus on sticker price. While if you look at the sticker price, a private school is usually going to be higher and out-of-state school is usually going to be higher, that doesn't necessarily mean that is what you will be paying. So use the net price calculator on each college's website. Every college has that on there, on our admissions page or our financial aid page, or probably both, because we're required by federal law to have that. So every college will have that. And it allows you to put in some of your specific information. So specific to what program you may be looking at, specific to your credentials, possibly GPA or test score or other credentials, and then some financial information as well. And so you can get a rough idea, at least, of what type of aid may be available to you at that school. Some schools are going to focus more on merit-based aid, meaning that they give more scholarship dollars based on academic credentials or accomplishments that you've made in high school. Sometimes it's based on test scores, sometimes it's based on having a certain status like being a national merit finalist or a valedictorian or an Eagle Scout or something like that, or an America's Junior Miss finalist or something like that. So it can be definitely a lot of different options. That's considered merit-based aid. There's also need-based aid, which that's based on the FAFSA. That is based on your income of your family and your providers, and also can be affected by certain expenses that you may have in certain other students that in your family that may be enrolled in higher education at the same time as you. That can affect the amount of financial aid you will get. Many schools combine that into one. And so the net price calculator will typically give you a breakdown that shows what part of that aid that you would be receiving would be based on need from the FAFSA or based on merit from other factors, of scholarship type aid. But usually they'll give you a breakdown of both of those, and it may be combined into one total amount. One thing to ask is whether a college meets full demonstrated need. Unfortunately, most colleges do not. The colleges that do tend to meet full demonstrated need tend to be the more highly selective schools. And by full demonstrated need, what that means is that on your FAFSA, once you've completed it, which has all of your financial information and way more financial information than you feel comfortable sharing, once you've completed that, it comes down to there is an expected family contribution, which is also referred to as an EFC. And that is how much your family is expected to be able to pay for your education. So full demonstrated need would be the difference between the cost of attendance at an institution, including all the costs, not just the tuition, but tuition fees, room and board, books, other expenses. The difference between that total cost and the EFC, your expected family contribution. So if a college is able to meet full demonstrated need, then they would be able to always, for any student that's admitted, cover that difference. Again, the reason that only highly selective schools can typically do that is because they are able to restrict who they admit. For schools who are admitting the vast majority of their applicants, like community colleges, which of course have lower costs to start, or colleges that are less selective, they can't take that into account when they're making admission decisions. So they may not be able to meet full demonstrated need. So just keep that in mind. That's a question to ask of your colleges to see how much they are going to be able to assist you financially with need-based aid. And when it comes to scholarships, consider colleges where your academic profile exceeds their averages. That's really going to be more of what we call your likely schools. People in the past used the word safety schools, but we don't like that word anymore. The schools where you're pretty confident that you can be admitted academically. So schools where your GPA may be above their average and maybe substantially above their average. And if they consider test scores, which some schools do, then maybe your test score is substantially above their average, or you just generally are more on the higher end of their academic range. Those are the schools that are more likely to give you more merit-based scholarship money. So in many cases, all of us college reps have had students that have been admitted to our institutions, but shall we say, maybe they're barely admitted to our institutions. Like it was a bit of a reach for them, but they managed to get admitted. And then they come and the students say, okay, now I need a scholarship so I can attend. And that's just not going to be likely for a reach school. So just do keep that in mind too when you're considering where to apply. Next advice, definitely complete the FAFSA as soon as it is available on October 1st. That's October 1st of your senior year to count for the following academic year. And I should have pointed this out earlier, but it's FAFSA, Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And it's available at fafsa.gov. Don't use any other site other than fafsa.gov. And it's FAFSA, not FAFSA. People get that one wrong all the time. And then just be sure to complete your every college's scholarship application that you're applying to. Sometimes colleges have automatic scholarships based on GPA and test score or status. And so students might be awarded one of those and think, oh, I don't need to complete the scholarship application. But in many cases, there are additional scholarship dollars available for those who do complete scholarship applications. So you just want to make sure you're not leaving any dollars on the table. Now, not every college is going to have a scholarship application separate from the admission application, but for the ones that do, just make sure that you go ahead and complete that. And then at the bottom, you can see I put some external resources up there. None of us or our institutions specifically endorse any of these sites, so do keep that in mind. But these are just some examples. Obviously, first place to start is your school counseling or college counseling office. They definitely are going to have resources available to you, and sometimes they'll have some special localized resources, like maybe your local chamber of commerce or realtors association or something has a local scholarship that you could be eligible for. Definitely start there, but then there's a few other national websites as well. So fastweb.com, scholarships.com, and goingmerry.com are good search engines for scholarship dollars or scholarships that come from outside of your college. You can usually use those scholarships from an external source at any accredited college or university in the country in most cases. And then we're going to move on to finding your fit in a virtual world. So what can you do now to find colleges that might be a good fit for you? So right now, almost all of us are doing virtual events several hours a day. So a lot of colleges are having virtual open houses, info sessions. Sometimes those are going to be targeted for students from a particular population or students interested in particular majors or particular extracurricular activities. And sometimes those will be grouped together. So you may have, say, 6 colleges or 4 colleges, I think 4 is usually the most common, colleges together giving info sessions on all of them and how to apply to all of them. And all of those colleges would, of course, share something in common. Virtual tours or experience days. Sometimes people are doing one-on-one visits. We are doing high school visits. I'm doing about 4 to 5 a day right now where I'm meeting with different students from different high schools via Zoom or Google Meets. So that's definitely a way to get acquainted with schools, even if you aren't able to visit them. But some colleges are offering on-campus tours or visits or experience days. Sometimes those might be reduced capacity. So check their websites and sign up well in advance if possible, because we do have to remain distanced right now. Some places are not able to accommodate nearly as many students or as many people on tours, as many family members, as many extra people in addition to the student on a tour as they normally would. So the earlier that you sign up, the more available spaces that you will be able to secure for your family, so that you can see the colleges. And then, of course, you know, we're always available by email and phone. All of us actually work remotely from our colleges under normal circumstances. We're continuing to do that now, but we've always done this. So many college reps are already experts in working virtually, and are regularly communicating with students via email or phone, or, like I said, virtual one-on-one appointments these days. That's very common for most of us. Check your email. I can't tell you how many times students have received emails from me offering one-on-one meetings or advising them that we're missing something for their application, or that I'm going to be visiting with their high school, and they're just not checking email regularly. And we know that that's not your primary means of communication. We understand that, but it's the easiest way to get information from colleges. So I definitely recommend checking your email regularly. And if it helps to set up a separate account for your college emails, you can do that. Again, as long as you're going to check it. Don't ever let it go more than a week at the most, and ideally less than that, between checking it. But that's definitely one way to kind of filter your college email from your high school email, everything else, to make sure that you can see it all in one space. Again. And then, of course, follow social media. We all have accounts on Twitter, on Instagram, on all the different mediums, Snapchat. We like to interact with students via those, so reach out to us, snap us, we'll snap you back, and just see what kind of content colleges are posting, because that can definitely help you determine whether a college is going to be a good fit for you. If you really like their Instagram page, for example, if it really speaks to you, then that can definitely help you find your fit.
Okay, so what we thought we would do, especially since there aren't a lot of questions in the chat, just a couple, which we do hope to get to. And at this point, if you guys would ask us any questions that you have in the chat, we want to make sure that you leave here today really having your questions answered. We thought it would be good to just kind of frame our institutions within what we just talked about. So we just talked about the acronym SLAM, in terms of size, location, academics, and money. And so at Johnson & Wales University, we are kind of that best of both worlds. We're a medium-sized university located in Providence, Rhode Island, as well as Charlotte, North Carolina. And we have about 12,000 students, so it's kind of a mid-sized university in terms of size. And then location, I've mentioned we're in 2 cities, Providence and Charlotte. So as Mandy said earlier, you know, if you love going north, Providence, Rhode Island, you're going to have more snow than you would say in Charlotte, North Carolina, right? In terms of academics, we have over 70 different majors at Johnson & Wales. So it's not going to be hundreds of different majors to choose from, but about 70, including something where we call an interdisciplinary major, where you can combine a couple of things together, design your own major, get faculty approval. And then finally, in terms of money, 94% of our students get financial aid and scholarships. That's because we are a private institution. So generally speaking, private schools tend to have a higher number of students getting that. And we do award our merit-based scholarships through the application process. So Elizabeth mentioned earlier, you know, some schools you have to apply separately. So at Johnson & Wales, it comes straight through the application process.
All right, guys. So this is Mandy again, and I'm back to talk a little bit about WVU and how we fit into the SLAM acronym as well. So as far as size, WVU is a pretty large school. We have just under 27,000 total students, about 21,000 undergraduates. So we're on the large side of that. Our location, as you can see the picture there, we're in Morgantown, West Virginia. So we're in the northern part of West Virginia. And we're definitely a college town setting. We sort of call ourselves a small city because it's not really small, but it's definitely not large by any means, somewhere in the middle. So So that's Morgantown, and this is just one part of our campus. So this is the downtown area, and it's spread, the campus is spread throughout Morgantown. So we have 2 other areas that make up the entire campus of WVU. So size, so pretty big. Location, you know, I talked at Morgantown, it's small city area, college town setting. Academics, we have about 380 different different degree programs total with our graduate and professional level programs. About 140 of those are undergraduate, and we also offer 142 different minors you can choose from. So lots of programs that you can check out, everything from agriculture to forensic science. And we do have a full medical and health sciences program as well. So that's your academic side. And then with all the resources that come with academics, academic advising, of course, free tutoring for all of our students, career services, launch labs, media innovation centers, you know, just tons and tons of resources because we do have such a large student population. And then on the money side, we about 89% of our students receive some form of financial aid, whether it's just need-based, whether it's merit-based, whether it's a combination of the 2. And our scholarships, it's an automatic consideration. So we were talking, you know, Elizabeth was talking earlier about some institutions, you may have a separate scholarship application that you have to use. With us, there is not one. So just a little bit of the differences there. And then just a couple of pictures to show you. This is in the bottom right-hand corner. That picture is our Evansdale side of campus with the Student Recreation Center right in the middle. And then just some fun activities at the top that our students get involved in through organizations and different programming like Adventure West Virginia. Our transit system, the PRT, the way our students get around campus as far as, you know, because of the size and how that incorporates into what you might be looking for. How do you get around a large campus like that? And then just a little bit about our student life again, with all the student orgs. We're Division I in sports, we're in the Big 12. We have WVU Up All Night, it's a special activity on the weekends, and our student union. So just a little bit about our type of university and how we fit on the larger side of that, but we're a large school in a smaller community. So a different take. Thank you.
Hey guys, this is Amanda from UT again. I'll start off by telling you a little bit about our location. We are located in Knoxville, Tennessee. Something that I really like about our location is that we're in a mid-sized city, but our campus is very enclosed within the city. So a lot of times I think when students are looking at city campuses, they're very spread throughout the city, but I think our campus kind of feels like a college town and a city all at once. So I think that Knoxville is a great size and provides lots of great opportunities for our students. As far as location, we're about 2 hours from Asheville, North Carolina, about 3 hours from Nashville, Tennessee, and about 3.5 hours from Atlanta. So depending on where you are in Virginia, we could actually be closer to you than some of the in-state institutions. Next, a little bit about our size. We do have about 24,000 undergraduate students. I think you get all the perks of a big school, but it can still feel pretty small. Our faculty to student ratio is 17:1, and 71% of our classes have 50 students or less. Another perk of a larger institution is that we have over 360 undergraduate programs of study. So there are tons of different majors that you can pick from. We also have over 600 different clubs and organizations. Kind of like Mandy said with WVU, 89% of our students receive scholarships and financial aid. Going to the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about scholarships. You are automatically considered for merit scholarships with your application for admission, and all of that information is on our website. So you'll find that at a lot of schools, they're very transparent about what it takes to get a scholarship. You can also apply for competitive scholarships with us. And another way to make your out-of-state experience a little bit more affordable is through the academic common market. Tennessee participates in that, and it's basically if a major is not offered in your home state, then you're able to go out of state for in-state tuition. So we have 8 different majors that will qualify you for in-state tuition at the University of Tennessee. So you can always try to find affordable ways to make your college dreams a reality.
Hi, and about the University of Alabama, we are a large public institution. We have 37,000 total students, counting graduate and professional students. So we definitely do fall into that large category. And we are Division I for athletics. Most people usually know that, but we're definitely one of those big school spirit kind of schools. We are in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It is a medium-sized city. It's going to be a bit smaller than Knoxville, but a bit bigger than Morgantown. So we're kind of in that in-between range. We do consider it a college town because the university is the biggest thing there, but not the only thing there. It's somewhat of a suburban environment as well. And Tuscaloosa, depending on where you are in Virginia, it's less than a day's drive, but it could be as many as maybe 14 hours and as low as maybe 5 or 6 hours, just depending on where you're coming from. But we do allow all of our students to have cars on campus. So that is an option. And we're about an hour from Birmingham and about 4.5 hours from the beach and 3 hours from Atlanta. Being the big school that we are, we offer majors in most everything. We are not a land-grant institution, so we don't have the agricultural or veterinary programs, but we have most everything else. And certainly all of the pre-programs. I get more questions about pre-med than just about everything else put together, and we're definitely very strong in that area. And we also are one of only 2 colleges in the country that has an on-campus commercial TV station. So not just a campus TV station, but it's actually the local affiliate of the CW. So like if you watch Riverdale, then that's, you know, if you were in Alabama or the western part of Alabama, that would come through our campus. And that's something that normally I can offer students tours of as well. You can see where they do things like broadcast the Nick Saban show and everything. And as far as money goes, we actually do have a separate scholarship application. Students are awarded automatic merit-based aid if they meet certain parameters, which are clearly laid out on our scholarships website. But we also do offer an additional scholarship application that can get you additional dollars. So I always encourage everyone to fill that out because you don't want to leave any money on the table. So I think it's time to move on to the Q&A now. If everybody wants to get back on the screen, we can start reading questions. Oh, and here's our contact information. Feel free to reach out to us individually. If we don't get to all of your questions, we will reach back out to you later with the answers to those. But if you have any that come up that don't get answered or that you didn't put in the Q&A that you want us to get to later, feel free to reach out to any of us. Our contact information is there. Who's got the first question?
Yeah, so we do have some questions. I tried to answer some of the more specific ones privately, but in terms of the whole group, we have a question and I think it's really good and it relates to academics if anyone wanted to touch on it. And the question is, should I go to the same school for my major as my bachelor's? And I'm not sure if the student is asking maybe for undergrad and graduate school. Does anyone want to just touch on that quickly?
Sure. I really think it's up to students' personal preference. You know, some people go to the same for their undergrad and grad. Sometimes that is a decision that's based around money. Sometimes it's based around, you know, the strength of the program. So you might have a really strong undergraduate program in something, but then feel like the graduate program somewhere else would be stronger. Some students may go out of state for undergrad and decide they want to go home. So it's really up to each individual what they're more comfortable with. And I don't think there's really a right or wrong answer to that question.
Okay, we have another question, and the student is asking, could you tell me the questions I need to ask and the main points I need to hit when I have the financial conversation with my parents?
Yeah, you just need to know what kind of financial limitations that you are going to have. So even students who actually live in a middle or very upper middle class lifestyle, they may not realize that their parents may not have accrued a college fund for them, or the college fund that they had accrued has been depleted in the recent economic downturns that we've had. So it's just important to have that honest conversation. What amount of money is available? How much can I expect to have contributed each year? And then if the student can contribute the difference by working, that's definitely a viable plan. But just have that discussion so that you know what is going to be an option, how much you can afford to spend each year.
We have another question. How should you go about figuring out what you want to study? Does knowing what sort of study or major you want to go into help with admissions? I think that's really a two-part question, and maybe we'll tackle the first one first because that's a little easier, which is how should you go about figuring out what you want to study? And I would just say exploring some classes in high school, especially if you're an underclassman. But if you're an upperclassman, maybe even a senior, you could do some sort of pointed research on the Bureau of Labor and Statistics about careers that come from certain majors and salaries that you might get after you graduate. Anyone else want to touch on that?
Yeah, talk to your school counselor and or another trusted adult or a trusted teacher about what your strengths and your interests may be. And then also once you get to college, you can go in as an undecided major. That's very common on all of our campuses. And there are career services offices on all of our campuses that have various assessments that they can, little tests and questionnaires that you can complete that'll kind of give you a rough idea of what might be good fits based on things that you enjoy and things that you particularly don't enjoy. So it can also rule out some things for you. And I'll just go ahead and give a personal anecdote here. In my case, I always wanted to be a doctor, but I hated chemistry. It's that talking to that teacher and realizing this is not a good fit for you that sent me in a different path, and you see me here today.
We have about 4 minutes left with the question, what should I do to prepare for college apps and selection as an underclassman?
Since we are limited on time, I will just do a little plug. Tomorrow I'm doing a College 101 information session like this, and so that will be covered much more in depth since we only have a few minutes left. But definitely, talk to your admissions counselors, talk to your college counselors, and just start looking at colleges. It's never too early to start looking at all the different colleges that are out there. Like we talked about with finding your virtual fit, look at all the different virtual opportunities that are out there. That's one positive that's come from COVID, is that you have so much more at your fingertips right from the comfort of your own home, so you can really get to know about different colleges. Maybe try to visit some colleges. Typically, this isn't advice that I would give, but with the limitations on travel, maybe visit some colleges that are near you that are similar to schools that you want to be applying to. Like maybe you don't want to get on a plane and look at a school you're interested in California, but if you want to get a sense for an urban campus or a college town, maybe there's some close to you that you could look at right now just with the limitations of COVID. So never too early to start researching and be taking part in all the virtual opportunities that are available for you.
And keep your grades up.
So I think that's all we have time to answer in the chat. I think we want to just reiterate that if you want to take a picture of our contact information, if you do come up with a question, we'd be happy to answer it later.
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on too, real quickly, we have a few minutes left. I think the other part of the question regarding the major and admission. So it depends, I think, on the school that you're applying to, or schools rather that you may be applying to. Your major won't necessarily always affect your admissions decision. It just depends on the school and your program. So for example, if you are interested in engineering, maybe at WVU or probably any other school that's offering engineering, and you have to meet both the general university requirements plus the specific requirements for the College of Engineering. So just think about that. And if you don't meet the College of Engineering requirements, you can still be admitted to the university, but it may take you a couple of more steps to get into the academic department. So your major isn't always going to directly affect your admissions decision. Okay, that was it.
Amanda, could you just really quickly plug, I think someone had a question about that thing that you're doing tomorrow, how they can register?
Yeah, so the same place that you went to register for this today on the StriveScan website, our session is College Admissions 101. So it's just a basic overview of everything that you need to do and be aware of in the college admissions process. So that might be helpful since we didn't have as much time to go over it at the end of our session today. So definitely join us in College Admissions 101 tomorrow. Looks like we're about at the end of our time. So I think, is it over?
I think so.
Okay.
Yay! That was awesome, girls. Good job.
So it looks like we still have
We're still
participants.
on, I think.
I think we're still recording.
Not sure. Well, thank you guys for coming, whoever's still here or
Still
leaving
good.
or whatever. So thank
We still
Hey,
did a good
do you all
job.
see the thank you screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
You all see that?
Yep.
Okay. So for our students and panelists, thank you for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, this was just one of many sessions being hosted. Be sure to sign up for additional sessions at strivescan.com/Virginia. In about a week, you will be able to find the sessions recording as well as any of the other session recordings so far at strivescan.com/Virginia. And thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Bye.
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 Good
Bye,
luck.
guys. Bye.
Bye.